Hello everyone, welcome to episode 24 of this super duper amazing awesome Osu Let's Play series. So in the last episode I talked about aim control, cursor control, cursor stability, and different ways that you can improve that. And in this episode I want to talk about consistency. So I think it's also something that's pretty misunderstood, and in the last 3 episodes I talked about, aim stability and finger control and reading, sort of fundamentally, and in this episode it's sort of going to be the culmination of the 3 of those, and I'm going to explain how they sort of tie together to form what we call consistency. So yes, before we get any further though, I do want to mention that I live stream every single day over at twitch.tv/DigitalHypno. That will be linked in the description, but if you want to hang out with me live or watch me play this game live, I would highly suggest stopping by there, saying hello, and bonus points if you tell me that you came from this Let's Play series. I will be very happy to see you there. So yes, let's get started. So I have 3 maps picked out for you, but they're all somewhat on the longer side. But this one, you might recognize it. I mentioned it in one of my previous episodes. So yes, I did not get a chance to play it for you in that episode, but I do want to show it off. This map is very good. So consistency. Oh, this is off. Oops, oopsies. Oh, I'm not sure if I've shown this off actually in an episode, but so the interface, everything's off, right? So if you press Shift Tab, that toggles that. Oh shoot, my fail sound. Yeah, if you've seen my clips from my stream, you've probably seen my fail sound. But yes, actually, so the hotkey is Shift Tab by default. But if you have the leaderboard toggle hotkey changed, then it's just Shift plus whatever that button is. So yes, keep that in mind. But let's go. Let's get started. Oh yeah. Toggle leaderboard. Okay. So consistency is basically what is. How do I describe this? Consistency is the culmination of your fundamental skills, I guess. Your ability to play something in the same way multiple times. So it's determined, I would say, by how strong your fundamentals are. There's, I think, different perspectives on this, so I'll try to shed light on each of those throughout this episode. But so just for some baseline knowledge, we can establish that there's consistent skill. Okay, there's fundamental skill in this game, and then there's skill cap, which is your maximum potential of what you're able to do. And that's usually based on star rating or just raw difficulty. People also sometimes call it mechanics. And then consistency, I think, is more tied to fundamentals. Okay, I think the best way that I can think of to describe this. Alright, so fundamentals versus skill cap in this game. So let's say you're making food, okay, you're cooking, and your skill cap is the fruits or vegetables that you're cooking with, and your fundamentals is your knife, how sharp your knife is. So how do I describe this? No matter what map you're playing, no matter what dish you're making, you're gonna need a solid knife to cut through everything cleanly and accurately, I guess. And however, depending on the dish you're making, depending on the type of map you're playing, that will call for different fruits, vegetables, ingredients, that sort of stuff. So yes, your skill cap is dependent on different types of the different skills in the game. You might have a really high aim skill cap, but very low maybe stamina, or maybe your reading is kind of off, or your rhythm sense, a bunch of random things. But yes, hopefully that sort of makes sense. Some maps do call for more aim than others, so but regardless, you're still gonna need solid fundamentals to play consistently. So that is sort of where no matter what dish you're making, you're gonna need a knife, right? You're gonna need a solid sharp knife to cut things cleanly. Otherwise, you can have the greatest ingredients, the most fresh ingredients in the world, and you just have the most dull knife in the world. You might still be able to manage your way after trying for, but yeah, you need to try a lot longer than someone with just a very clean sharp knife can get through things very quickly and efficiently. Hopefully that explanation somewhat makes sense. So fundamentals, okay, so yeah, consistency and fundamentals they sort of go hand in hand, I would say. And hopefully, okay, so if you're watching this episode, I'm going to assume you've seen the previous ones too, and you've heard me shout out that you should watch my video named OZPhD. So I'm gonna assume you guys have all seen that video, but if not, then yeah, pause this video, go check out that one. I talk about consistency and all the other skills in the game in a much more structured way than in this video. But yeah, I would say, okay, so people sometimes define consistency as just like straight up how good you are. Like if you're good enough to play a map, then you'll be consistent on it. And if you're not consistent on a map, then you're just not good enough for it. And I think that's true to an extent, but I think there's definitely people with like a much higher skill cap than like their fundamentals. And in that case, like technically they have like the ability to get a score, but it might take them like 1,000 retries because they, you know, either they're just like, I mean, sure, okay, sure, maybe they are just like scraping like the edges of their skill cap and they're only like barely able to get that score, but it's also possible that your fundamentals are just not in a very good spot, and so like maybe your aim isn't super stable, it's very RNG, it's just like completely random whether or not you hit stuff, and that stems from fundamentals, I would say. So basically the culmination of the last 3 episodes that I've made with aim control, cursor control, wait, what? Aim control, finger control, and reading. So yeah, hold on. I was gonna take that somewhere, but I don't remember. You know, this map's very good. Song is so good. I don't know why I'm hitting early. Okay. Okay, so one thing I do want to mention is long maps, because yeah, the 3 maps that I have picked up for this episode are on the longer side, and that's usually because consistency is usually associated with longer maps as opposed to, you know, shorter ones that you can just retry over and over until you get good enough luck, I guess, to actually hit stuff, to you know, to FC the map. And okay, so there, yeah, so basically if the entire map is more or less the same difficulty, you know, it's not like a bar map where there's just like a giant difficulty spike at the end or something like that. Okay, next map. Oh no. Okay, this one. Okay, so yes, longer maps are also, yeah, they're described as requiring more consistency because okay, it should be pretty, I don't know how much I really need to explain this, but frick, I was saying something, I don't remember. Oh yeah, okay, so consistent difficulty. So if the entire map is like sort of the same difficulty throughout the entire map, then people sometimes just call it like consistency test, something like that. As opposed to, I think the opposite of that is like, I don't know, inconsistent difficulty, or you call it like a diff spike, just short for difficulty spike. Where like, that's usually common in PP maps where, I've sort of discussed it before, but like the last pattern of the map is just way harder than everything else. So in that sense, it's all about just like holding combo to the end of the end of the map, and then just like this pattern that's way harder than everything else. Oh. Okay, that's a pattern. So hopefully I'm sort of making sense. Okay, let me try to gather my thoughts. I'm a little scatterbrained today, more so than usual, but you know what, that's okay. Okay, so I want to talk about consistency and focus, and I guess like its role. So I think focus, and it sort of ties into like outside factors in this game as well. Like, you know, like hygiene, diet, like, yeah, focus is affected by things other than just your your raw ability to, like, you know, your raw mechanics, skill cap. And it's especially important in tournament play, I guess. Like in tournament preparation, you really want to make sure you're well focused, because you can only be as consistent as your like ability to process the patterns, I would say. If you can't read the patterns properly, like, or like you're like spacing out a lot, then you, okay, it's hopefully also so self-explanatory, but obviously you're not going to be able to play the map consistently or like get a consistent performance. Or actually, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. But then also, if you can't like control your finger movements, obviously, or like your cursor control, you know, aim stability, things like that, then that's also obviously going to lead to poor consistency. But yeah, focus is, I think, actually the huge one that people, I mean, I think it's touched on, but people don't completely respect exactly how much focus plays a role in consistency. Hopefully that makes sense. I feel like there's more I can talk about consistency. Okay, I think I can talk about how some people suggest that like if you want to get better at consistency, you just play longer maps. You just practice playing longer maps. Yeah, and okay, that's another thing. Okay, so a little side. Okay, I'll circle back to that advice, but I want to talk about, I guess, like nerve control and like if you are getting nervous on long maps and how that sort of affects your consistency. Which, long story short, like if you're getting nervous, it's going to tank your focus. You're not really going to be as focused on actually playing the map, and your brain's just going to be filled with thoughts on like how, you know, how good do you think the score is, or like the result of if you were to like hold this full combo, like OMG, I'm full comboing, and then like you just completely stop focusing on the map itself, and then yeah, everything just goes downhill. That is a very easy way to not be consistent, is nerve control, or like poor nerve control. And if you're interested in knowing how to improve nerve control, I did a series of interviews with different top players on how they control their nerves. So I will link that playlist in the description in case you're curious, or I will link one of the interviews in the little card thingy in the top right corner. So yes, highly recommend checking those out. But yes, okay. Oh, okay. This map is going insane. Okay, there you go. Okay, so yes, the advice of just play longer maps and you'll improve your consistency. I think it has some merit to it, but I think it boils down to like, because playing those maps sort of like trains your focus, and I think so. I think it trains your focus, and typically longer maps also, like they don't have like insane difficulty spikes like short PP maps do. So yeah, it forces you to like, it basically, yeah, I think the reason why longer maps train your consistency is because it trains your focus to like stay intact, I guess, for longer periods of time. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. So okay, let's see next. Okay, one more map picked up for you guys. This song is so good. Actually, I have a score on this with Hard Rock. Okay, maybe I should just play with Hard Rock. I haven't used Hard Rock since the second episode in this Let's Play series. So, yeah, Hard Rock. Oh my gosh, AR10. So, approach rate 10. Which is, okay, in case you guys are not sure, these numbers up here. Actually, you can mouse over it and see more stats on the exact millisecond time for the approach rate, and then also the millisecond, like, timing windows for getting a 300, 150. That's the unstable rate. So, yes, and the hit object radius is the circle size information. Okay, spinner difficulty, I think, is also based on the OD, I think. Actually, wait, let me check, actually. Let's find out. Okay, this is 7.5, and now it's 7. Okay, yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's based on the OD. Okay, let's go. Thanks, Nathan, for making such good maps. 2 Nathan maps in this episode. But yeah, honestly, I think, if you haven't, okay, also, if you haven't seen the last 3 episodes, I think, okay, so in those 3 episodes, I talked about aim control, and then finger control, and reading, and I think understanding those concepts and training each of them, and like, you know, making sure that each of those 3 fundamentals are in a good spot, I think will put you in a really good spot for consistency as well. But aside from that, still, like, the point still stands that if you are just straight up not good enough to play a map, then you're not going to be consistent on it. Like, you might get really, really lucky and like hit something that's really, really hard for you, but you're not going to be consistent on it if you're just not good enough to play that pattern. So improving skill cap is also obviously really important for consistency, because like, even if you feel like you're not super consistent of a player, like let's say you've been playing this game for a while, you're pretty inconsistent, but you can like hold your own on most like 5-star or maybe some 6-star maps. Then if you're playing like a low 4-star map, you can probably hold your own just fine and play it pretty consistently, even though overall you wouldn't rate your consistency very high. And then that's sort of what's meant by like consistency is just about being good enough to play that kind of map. Like if you're inconsistent on 5 to 6-star maps, then probably you're just not good enough and you have to get better. But there's like two sides to getting better basically. Either you're improving your skill cap or like your raw mechanics, or you're improving your fundamentals. And even though you might not feel like improving fundamentals is actually necessarily helping you, like sharpening your knife will not make your ingredients any more tasty, I guess, but it will make things a lot easier and like more consistent, I guess. If that makes sense. So hopefully my analogies have somewhat made sense throughout this episode. Okay. So I probably have time for like one more tidbit about consistency. Yeah. Okay, I do want to talk a bit more about focus, even though I did already touch on it, but especially chunking. I think like if you're able to process patterns like very clearly, and this is where I think like getting a good night's sleep the night before. Okay, so especially for like tournament preparation, if you're playing in a tournament, you really want to make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before, because and also like, you know, make sure you're not like starving. General hygiene is taken care of, because that is like, if not, then that's a very easy way to just like have absolutely no focus. You'll just have no idea why you're missing, just missing all over the place. Warming up properly. Okay, that's another thing. So personally, when I warm up, I train my fundamentals. I do some like very basic like 1-star stuff. I think the thing that I described in the last episode called auto method, I will definitely make an episode on that very soon. Actually, I might make it like I might make it next episode. Okay, no, probably not. There's a couple other skills I do want to touch on in a bit more detail before I make a video about auto method. But yes, I would say the way that you warm up actually affects consistency a lot throughout a session. So like if you just sort of like hop on and just play whatever random maps, actually, okay, that's not always a bad way to warm up. I would say, okay, honestly, I would say the only like wrong way to warm up in this game is by like playing stuff that you straight up can't play unless you were warmed up, or like stuff that you just straight up can't play at all. Like if it's just gonna break your hand, then obviously, or like if you need to like really tense up to play those maps for a warm up, then I think it's just gonna keep your hands tense through the rest of the map, through the rest of your session as well. But if you warm up in ways that like promote like your hands being very loose, I guess, then it's gonna have sort of the opposite effect, I would say. So and I think like, okay, so in that sense also, like stretching, like doing hand stretches is really, really important for warming up properly and promoting consistency, I guess. So yeah, personally, yeah, so when I warm up, and if you ever catch the starts of my live streams, you can like sort of follow along or like watch exactly how I warm up when I play this game. But yeah, I would say, so like personally when I warm up, I do stretches, like hand wrist exercises, and then I do like some fundamental, you know, aim control, stability, auto method, and then I just I do some like raw mechanics practice afterwards, usually like raw tapping or like raw aim, or usually both. And then that touches on my aim and tapping, and then reading is sort of, and like reading / focus is more warmed up on auto method / like the low star. It also helps with cursor stability and things like that. It's a lot of niche things that I will, yeah, I'll get into that in future episodes. But yes, hopefully you learned at least one thing from this episode or had some insights of some sort that were helpful. But again, check out OCPHD. It's a much more thorough, you know, baseline structured explanations of all the different skills in the game. I highly recommend checking out that video. And yes, if you guys are watching in the future, I would recommend checking out my other videos as well, because I make these every single day. So check out my channel. And yes, also stop by my Twitch streams and hang out with me because I stream every single day. But yes, with that, see you guys next time.